The massive ships appeared without warning, their obsidian hulls blocking out the stars above every major city on Earth. 17 vessels, each larger than the largest human aircraft carrier, hung in perfect formation, silent sentinels announcing humanity's first contact with alien life. Commander Diana Walsh stood in the Pentagon's command center, watching as displays showed the same scene playing out across the globe. Her weathered features remained stoic, but her fingers drummed against the polished surface of the tactical display, betraying her tension. "They're broadcasting on all frequencies," announced Communications Officer James Harrison, his dark skin illuminated by the glow of multiple screens. "The message is, it's being transmitted in perfect English." The alien transmission echoed through the command center. "People of Earth, we are the Kraxan Empire. Your world now falls within our domain. Surrender peacefully, and you may serve as productive members of our society. Resist, and face obliteration. You have 24 Earth hours to respond." Diana's drumming fingers stopped. "Well," she said, her voice dry, "at least they're direct." In the adjacent engineering bay, Chief Engineer Marcus Rivera was already working with his team, analyzing the scant data they'd managed to gather about the alien vessels. His salt and pepper hair was disheveled, and his glasses sat crooked on his nose as he pored over energy readings. "Their shield technology is like nothing we've ever seen," he muttered, more to himself than to his team. "Our conventional weapons wouldn't even scratch the paint." But there was something about the readings that nagged at him. The way the shields seemed to pulse, the energy signatures they emitted. He'd seen something similar before, in a very different context. The global response was swift but divided. Some nations called for immediate surrender, while others demanded resistance at any cost. The UN Security Council convened an emergency session, but everyone knew there wasn't enough time for traditional diplomacy. 12 hours into the deadline, Diana received a call from Marcus. His voice crackled with excitement and lack of sleep. "Commander, I need you in the lab. Now." When she arrived, Marcus was standing before a giant whiteboard covered in equations and diagrams. "Look at this," he said, pointing to a particular set of numbers. "Their shields operate on a principle similar to our electromagnetic fields, just vastly more advanced. But here's the thing. They're calibrated to defend against energy weapons like lasers and plasma." Diana crossed her arms. "Marcus, we don't have energy weapons." "Exactly." His eyes gleamed. "They're prepared for the weapons they expect us to have. But what about the weapons they think are beneath them?" Understanding dawned on Diana's face. "Kinetic weapons. Better." Marcus grinned. "Artillery. Good old-fashioned heavy artillery with a few modifications. Their shields are tuned to disperse energy attacks, but a solid mass moving at high velocity. That's a whole different story." Diana was already reaching for her phone. "How quickly can we modify our existing artillery? With global cooperation and resources, maybe 48 hours for the first batch." "But Commander," Marcus's expression turned serious, "we'll need to let them strike first. Let them think we're as helpless as they believe we are." The next 12 hours were a blur of activity. While the world's governments publicly debated surrender terms, a secret network of military facilities sprang into action. Artillery pieces were quietly moved into position. Ammunition was modified according to Marcus's specifications. Combat teams were briefed on the plan that seemed simultaneously brilliant and insane. As the deadline approached, Diana stood before the Joint Chiefs and the President. "We can't match their technology," she admitted, "but we can use their own arrogance against them. They expect us to either surrender or to fight with our most advanced weapons, weapons that would be useless against their shields. Instead, we'll fight with modified versions of weapons they consider obsolete." The President looked at each of his advisors in turn. "The entire human race is at stake. Are we certain this is our best option?" Diana's response was firm. "No, sir. But it's our only option that doesn't end in submission or extinction." As the 24-hour deadline expired, the Kraxan Empire received Earth's response, A single word transmitted on all frequencies. No. High above, in the command ship of the Kraxan fleet, Supreme Commander Vix smiled, showing rows of metallic teeth. Brave, he said to his bridge crew. Stupid, but brave. Prepare the first wave of ground forces. Let's show these primitives the price of defiance. But as the alien dropships began their descent through Earth's atmosphere, artillery crews around the world waited in silence, their modified weapons aimed skyward. Humanity was about to teach the galaxy a lesson about underestimating primitive species. Diana watched the alien ships approach on radar, her hand hovering over the command console. Beside her, Marcus whispered, "Sometimes the old ways are the best ways." She nodded, took a deep breath, and gave the order that would change the course of human history. All batteries, fire at will. The modified artillery shells streaked through the dawn sky like angry comets. Supreme Commander Vix watched with mild amusement as the primitive projectiles approached his dropships. His bridge crew didn't even bother to raise additional shields. Their standard defenses would easily deflect such archaic weapons. The first shell struck the lead dropship's shield and passed straight through. The explosion ripped the alien craft apart in a spectacular ball of fire. Debris rained down over the Pacific Ocean as the remaining dropships scattered in disarray. For the first time in centuries, a Kraxan vessel had been destroyed by an inferior species. Vix's metallic teeth ground together with an uncomfortable screech. "Impossible," he snarled. "How did they?" Another explosion cut him off as a second dropship erupted in flames. On the ground, Marcus Rivera watched the data streaming in from the first engagement. "The modified shells are performing better than expected," he reported, unable to keep the excitement from his voice. "The vibration frequency completely bypasses their shield harmonics." Commander Diana Walsh was already coordinating with other defense centers worldwide. All artillery batteries, adjust firing solutions using template alpha, concentrate fire on their troop transports. She turned to Marcus. "How many shells can we produce?" "Every weapons factory on Earth is running at maximum capacity. But we'll need more than just artillery to win this." Diana nodded grimly. "Agreed. Implement Phase 2. Phase 2 was already underway in facilities across the globe. Teams of engineers were modifying everything from tank rounds to rifle ammunition with the same principles that made the artillery so effective. It was a race against time. The Kraxan Empire wouldn't remain stunned for long. True to prediction, the alien response was swift and furious. Massive energy beams lanced down from the orbiting ships, targeting Earth's major military installations. But humanity had anticipated this. Key facilities had been evacuated, dummy installations set up as decoys. The real work continued in hardened bunkers deep underground. Here, soldiers trained with modified weapons while engineers refined their designs. The early success had proven the concept. Now they needed to scale up. In the Kraxan command ship, Vix faced his first real military crisis. "How were they able to penetrate our shields?" he demanded. His chief scientist, a spindly being named Krell, trembled as he explained. They modified their primitive kinetic weapons to resonate at precisely the frequency our shields are designed to allow through. It's brilliant in its simplicity. We never considered they would be capable of such adaptation. Then we adapt as well, Vix growled. Modify our shield frequencies. It's not that simple, Commander. They're already adjusting their weapons. Each shot comes at a slightly different frequency. They're learning, evolving their tactics with each engagement. On Earth, the first ground battle began in the highlands of Scotland. Kraxan ground forces, having finally established a beachhead, advanced with the confidence of technologically superior warriors. They met a company of British troops armed with modified rifles and supported by vintage artillery pieces that had been pulled from museums and hastily upgraded. The battle that followed would be studied in military academies for generations to come. The alien forces found their energy weapons surprisingly ineffective against hastily constructed earthen fortifications, while the modified human weapons chewed through their supposedly impenetrable armor. Lieutenant Fiona MacLeod, commanding the British forces, employed tactics that would have been familiar to her great-grandfather in World War II, combined with the new technologies developed by Rivera's team. Her troops used the terrain to their advantage, employed coordinated artillery barrages, and engaged in close combat where the aliens' superior technology proved less decisive. The Highland victory, as it came to be known, provided valuable tactical data. Human forces learned that the Kraxan warriors, for all their advanced technology, were inexperienced in actual combat. Centuries of technological supremacy had left them unprepared for adversity. Back in the Pentagon, Diana and Marcus worked tirelessly to exploit this weakness. "They're trying to fight a clean war," Diana observed, watching footage from Scotland. "They've forgotten that war is never clean." Marcus nodded, his fingers flying over his keyboard as he incorporated new data into their weapons designs. "They expect everything to be done with energy weapons and force fields. They don't expect trenches or camouflage or good old-fashioned deception. How long before the next wave of modifications is ready?" 24 hours. We're incorporating nanomaterials now, using their own salvage technology against them. Each weapon will be able to automatically adjust to their shield frequencies. Diana allowed herself a small smile. They thought we were primitives with sticks and stones. Time to show them what those primitives can do when backed into a corner. The Kraxan Empire had started this war expecting an easy victory over a primitive species. Instead, they found themselves in a grinding conflict against an opponent who combined obsolete weapons with innovative adaptations of the Empire's own technology. The humans' willingness to use every available tool, regardless of its age or origin, confused and frustrated the aliens' military doctrine. As the sun set on the first major ground battle, Vix received reports of similar engagements breaking out across the globe. Everywhere his forces landed, they met resistance from weapons that shouldn't have been effective, wielded by soldiers who refused to follow the established rules of modern combat. In his underground command center, Marcus put the finishing touches on the next generation of hybrid weapons. "You know," he said to Diana, "we should almost thank them. We've advanced our military technology by decades in just a few days." Diana's reply was interrupted by a priority alert. The Kraxan fleet was repositioning. The next phase of the war was about to begin, and humanity would need every bit of innovation and courage they could muster. "No time to rest," she said, already moving toward the command center. "Get those weapons distributed. The real battle is just beginning." The orbital bombardment began at midnight. The Kraxan fleet, stung by their early defeats, unleashed their full fury on Earth's surface. Energy beams powerful enough to vaporize mountains carved glowing scars across continents. But humanity had learned from those first encounters. The majority of the beams struck empty targets or hardened decoys. Deep in the Rocky Mountains, Commander Diana Walsh monitored the attacks from humanity's new mobile command center. "Status report," she called out, her voice steady despite the rumbling of distant impacts. "Minimal casualties," reported Harrison. "Evacuation protocols worked better than expected. 90% of their strikes are hitting dummy installations." Marcus Rivera burst into the command center, his tablet displaying new data. "They're adapting faster than anticipated. The energy signatures of their weapons are shifting. They're trying to overcome our defenses through sheer power." Diana studied the tactical display. Red dots representing Kraxan strikes multiplied across the globe, but the green indicators of human resistance remained strong. "They still don't understand," she mused. "They think this is about technology." The real battle was taking place on the ground. In the Amazon rainforest, Brazilian special forces used modified hunting rifles to devastating effect against Kraxan patrols. The dense canopy negated the aliens' air superiority, while the humans' knowledge of the terrain proved invaluable. In the Siberian wilderness, Russian artillery units had perfected a shoot-and-scoot technique that left the aliens firing at empty positions. The modified guns could be dismantled and moved in minutes, their primitive appearance belying their deadly effectiveness. But the Kraxan Empire hadn't conquered half the galaxy by being inflexible. Supreme Commander Vix had finally begun to adapt his tactics. No more precision strikes, he ordered. Initiate Protocol Omega. Burn everything. The new assault was different. Instead of targeting military installations, the Kraxan fleet began systematically destroying infrastructure, power plants, transportation hubs, communication centers. Anything that supported human civilization became a target. In the command center, Diana watched the destruction unfold. "They're trying to force us back to the Stone Age," she observed grimly. Marcus nodded, but his eyes held a glimmer of hope. "Maybe, but they don't realize we've already prepared for this." "Show her," he said to one of his engineers. The young woman, Lieutenant Jessica Chen, brought up a new display. "We've been developing these since the first attack," she explained, pointing to schematics of what looked like ancient steam engines modified with alien technology. Completely autonomous power systems, no electronics to disrupt, no complex parts to break down. We're calling them retrotech. Diana studied the designs. "How many?" "Thousands, hidden in old mines, abandoned factories, anywhere they wouldn't think to look. We can keep our essential systems running indefinitely." The war settled into a brutal rhythm. The Kraxan forces would develop a new weapon or tactic, and humanity would respond with an improvised countermeasure that seemed to defy the laws of physics. The aliens' frustration grew with each passing day. In orbit, Vex received increasingly desperate reports from his ground commanders. His troops were being killed by weapons they couldn't detect, ambushed by enemies they couldn't track, and defeated by strategies their combat computers couldn't predict. "They're not fighting fair," one commander protested after losing an entire division to what appeared to be primitively modified landmines. Vix's response was cold. "Then we will teach them the price of their defiance." Launch the World Breakers. The World Breakers were the pride of the Kraxan fleet, massive ships capable of cracking a planet's crust. As they moved into position, however, something unexpected happened. Diana's voice crackled over all human communication channels. "Operation Legacy is go." I repeat, Operation Legacy is go. Across the globe, hidden installations activated. What appeared to be ancient coastal artillery emplacements swiveled skyward, their barrels gleaming with modifications that would have been impossible a month ago. In mountains, deserts, and jungles, carefully camouflaged weapons platforms emerged from their hiding places. Marcus watched the deployment from his station. "Maybe now they'll understand," he said quietly. "The old ways never stopped working. We just needed the right motivation to make them better." The human counterattack began with a synchronized barrage that lit up the sky. Modified artillery shells carrying payloads of salvaged alien technology streaked toward the Kraxan fleet. The shells split apart in the upper atmosphere, releasing clouds of primitive but devastating projectiles. The Kraxan ship's energy shields, designed to repel modern weapons, proved useless against the hybrid assault. The World Breakers, for all their power, found themselves under attack by weapons their sensors could barely detect. "Impossible," Vix whispered as the first World Breaker erupted in a cascade of explosions. "They're using our own technology against us." "No," his science officer corrected, a note of admiration in his voice. "They're using their technology, enhanced by what they learned from us. We gave them the keys to our weakness, and they built something entirely new." The battle for Earth's survival had entered its final phase, and humanity's primitive ingenuity was about to teach the galaxy's most powerful empire a lesson it would never forget. The Sahara Desert became the unlikely stage for humanity's defining moment in the war. As the remaining World Breakers descended through Earth's atmosphere, they met not the crumbling resistance they expected, but a trap generations in the making. Ancient bunkers, built during the Cold War and forgotten by most, had been transformed into launch sites for humanity's hybrid weapons. Solar-powered facilities, hidden beneath the sand, housed production lines where captured alien technology was merged with Earth's primitive armaments. Commander Diana Walsh watched from a reinforced observation post as Operation Sandstorm began. Sometimes, she said to Marcus, who stood beside her, the best place to hide is in plain sight. The desert erupted. Thousands of modified artillery pieces, their barrels gleaming with reverse-engineered alien tech, emerged from the dunes. The Kraxen's orbital scans had dismissed them as ancient wreckage, buried by decades of shifting sands. That mistake would cost them dearly. Supreme Commander Vix realized too late that he'd led his fleet into a killbox. The Worldbreaker's shields, calibrated against modern energy weapons, offered little protection against the barrage of hybrid shells. Each projectile carried a payload of synchronized nanomaterials that adapted to the aliens' shifting shield frequencies. How? He demanded, watching another Worldbreaker fall. How did they conceal such a force? The answer came from his tactical officer, voice trembling. They didn't conceal it. Sir, we saw it. We just didn't consider it a threat. Below, Marcus coordinated with engineering teams worldwide as they implemented the final phase of humanity's defense. The Sahara Gambit worked, he reported. Their fleet is committed. Time for the second surprise. At his signal, installations across Earth activated a network of modified electromagnetic pulse generators. These weren't the crude EMPs of the past. They'd been enhanced with salvaged Kraxen technology, tuned to the exact frequencies used by the alien fleet's neural networks. The effect was devastating. Kraxen ships, dependent on their advanced AI systems, suddenly found themselves fighting blind. Their crews, accustomed to letting computers handle combat decisions, struggled to adapt to manual control. Lieutenant Jessica Chen, monitoring the battle from a secondary command post, allowed herself a small smile. They forgot the basics, she said to her team. They relied so heavily on automation that they forgot how to fight without it. The Sahara engagement marked a turning point. For the first time, the Kraxen fleet faced not just defeat, but humiliation. Their most powerful ships were being systematically destroyed by weapons they had dismissed as relics. Vix watched in horror as his mighty armada crumbled before what he had considered a primitive species. His metallic teeth ground together as he faced a reality no Kraxen commander had encountered in centuries: the possibility of defeat. In a desperate move, he ordered his remaining ships to form a battle line above Earth's equator. "If we can't conquer them," he snarled, "we'll make their victory Pyrrhic. Prepare the plasma cannons for maximum discharge. We'll boil their oceans before we retreat." But humanity had anticipated this too. Diana's voice cut through all frequencies, addressing the Kraxen commander directly. "Look up, Commander Vix." As the alien fleet repositioned, they finally detected what their arrogance had blinded them to: a network of orbital platforms, disguised as space debris, armed with hybrid weapons that combined human innovation with Kraxen technology. "Those aren't just weapons," Marcus explained to the command staff. "Each platform contains a quantum-linked processor running combat algorithms based on human military history. Napoleon's tactics, Rommel's maneuvers, Sun Tzu's strategies, all enhanced by alien tech but guided by human ingenuity." The orbital defense grid activated, catching the Kraxen fleet in a crossfire between space and ground-based weapons. Ships that had conquered countless worlds found themselves outmaneuvered by combat computers that fought like human generals. Diana watched the battle unfold on her tactical display, her expression stern but satisfied. "Send the message," she ordered. The transmission reached every Kraxen ship. "Your fleet is surrounded. Your tactical position is untenable. But unlike you, we don't believe in unnecessary destruction. Withdraw your forces, and you may leave with honor. Stay and learn exactly how primitive we can be." In his command ship, Vix faced the most difficult decision of his career. His sensors showed more human weapons platforms activating by the minute. His fleet, once seemingly invincible, was now trapped between hammer and anvil. But worse than the tactical situation was the knowledge that they had completely misjudged their opponent. Humanity hadn't just survived the Kraxan onslaught. They had evolved because of it, turning their perceived weakness into unprecedented strength. As the sun set over the Sahara battlefield, the remnants of the Kraxan fleet began their withdrawal. Earth's defenders maintained their positions, weapons ready, watching as humanity's first interstellar enemy retreated into the darkness of space. In the command center, Marcus turned to Diana. "They'll be back," he said quietly. "Not tomorrow, maybe not for years, but they'll return." Diana nodded, her eyes fixed on the tactical display showing the departing alien ships. "Yes," she agreed. "But next time, they'll remember that the most dangerous weapon isn't the most advanced one. It's the one your enemy thinks can't hurt you." The Battle of the Sahara would be remembered not just as a military victory, but as the moment humanity proved itself ready for the challenges of a larger, more dangerous universe. Their willingness to embrace both old and new, to find strength in what others considered obsolete, had changed the galaxy's perception of Earth forever. Would you like me to continue with the final part? Part 5 will wrap up the story by showing the immediate aftermath of the victory and its implications for humanity's future among the stars. The weeks following the Kraxan retreat transformed Earth in ways no one could have predicted. Humanity emerged not just victorious, but revolutionized. Former military bases became centers of technological innovation, where engineers worked to understand and improve upon the hybrid weapons that had saved their world. Commander Diana Walsh stood in the newly established Global Defense Center, formerly the Pentagon, watching holographic displays showing the integration of salvaged alien technology with Earth's existing infrastructure. The room hummed with activity as personnel from every nation worked together, united by their shared victory. "Latest report from the lunar observation posts," Harrison announced. "No sign of Kraxan activity within sensor range. But the quantum communications network we reversed engineered from their tech is picking up interesting chatter from other civilizations." Marcus Rivera looked up from his workstation, where he was analyzing data from the hybrid weapons systems. "They're talking about us, aren't they?" "Oh yes," Diana replied, allowing herself a rare smile. "The primitive species that drove back the mighty Kraxan Empire. We've gotten their attention." But attention brought its own challenges. Within months, diplomatic vessels from other galactic civilizations began arriving in Earth's orbit. Unlike the Kraxan, they came seeking dialogue, fascinated by the species that had accomplished the impossible. The first meeting with the Galactic Council took place in the restored United Nations building. Diana and Marcus, as key architects of Earth's defense, were present as humanity's representatives made their case for recognition. "You must understand our surprise," said the Archon of Centauri, their crystalline form shimming in the sunlight. "The Kraxan have dominated this sector for millennia. Yet you defeated them using technology they considered obsolete." "Not obsolete," Marcus corrected. "Just different. We proved that progress isn't always linear. Sometimes the old ways, combined with new insights, can achieve what pure advancement cannot." Lieutenant Chen, now heading Earth's new Hybrid Technologies Division, presented the Council with data from the war. "Every defeat the Kraxan suffered came from their own assumptions," she explained. "They were so convinced of their superiority that they couldn't recognize true innovation when they saw it." The implications of Earth's victory rippled across the galaxy. Other species, long dominated by the Kraxan, began experimenting with hybrid technologies of their own. Earth became a hub of technological exchange, where ancient techniques merged with advanced science in ways that challenged conventional wisdom. But victory brought responsibility. Diana found herself overseeing the establishment of Earth's first interstellar defense force. "We can't rest on our laurels," she warned the Global Security Council. "The Kraxan will adapt. When they return, they won't underestimate us again." Marcus's team worked tirelessly to prepare for that eventuality. The hybrid weapons that had won the war were just the beginning. Every piece of salvaged alien technology was studied, not to copy it, but to understand how it could be improved by Earth's unique approach to innovation. "Look at this," he said to Diana one evening, showing her schematics for a new defensive system. We're combining Victorian-era mechanical computing with quantum processors. The Kraxan would consider it an abomination, but it works better than either technology alone. The greatest change, however, was in humanity's perception of itself. The species that had once looked to the stars with fear now saw opportunities. Earth's cities were rebuilt with a combination of traditional architecture and alien technology. Schools taught both advanced physics and ancient engineering principles. 1 year after the Kraxan retreat, humanity launched its first faster-than-light vessel. The ship, named Legacy, combined reverse-engineered alien drive systems with human-designed mechanical backups. Its maiden voyage carried a message to the galaxy. Earth was ready to claim its place among the stars. Diana watched the launch from the observation deck of the Orbital Defense Station. "Did you ever think," she asked Marcus, "when they first appeared over our cities, that it would end like this?" He shook his head, smiling. "No, but I should have. Humanity's greatest strength has always been our ability to learn, adapt, and overcome. The Kraxan thought they were superior because they had the most advanced technology. We proved that true advancement comes from understanding all possibilities, not just the newest ones." As the Legacy disappeared into hyperspace, carrying Earth's first official diplomatic mission to the Galactic Council, Diana reflected on how far they had come. The primitive species that had dared to say no to an empire was now helping to reshape the galaxy's understanding of progress and innovation. They thought Earth was helpless, she mused, watching the stars. Instead, we showed them that true strength comes not from having the most advanced weapons, but from having the wisdom to use every tool at your disposal. The war had ended, but humanity's journey was just beginning. As Earth's influence spread among the stars, they carried with them a lesson learned in fire and triumph. Never underestimate the power of a species that refuses to be limited by anyone's definition of progress. In the depths of space, aboard what remained of his once mighty fleet, Supreme Commander Vix received reports of Earth's growing influence. His metallic teeth ground together as he realized the full magnitude of his failure. The primitive species hadn't just defeated his empire. They had changed the very nature of galactic warfare and technological development. The universe would never be the same, and somewhere in the vast expanse of space, humanity's first diplomatic vessel carried a simple message to all who would listen. Earth was no longer just a primitive world of sticks and stones. It was the birthplace of a revolution in thinking that would reshape the galaxy for generations to come. The end.